Not that that's slow by any stretch of the imagination, and he's only just number one as well by 7 foul. So Daniel Letts from Hungary, Citrix Lane, action. The UK in the
that didn't compute to the 120-60 foot.
Well, maybe it just makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Jack Shook did a good job. Thank you for not hitting the blocks. We've had a few of those going today. Martin Hallett, Chris Reed. Chris is on the bump at the moment. That's his number on the board. To be safe, he really needs to run at something beginning with a 7.4. The bike can do it. You know, boys can do it. In fact, the rider would do it way quicker than that. But, you know, doesn't work. That was Boyce by the sound of it. 7.23 at 195 for Martin Hallett, stays number 6. Boyce has to wait out and see if he's going to be around tomorrow. It's a Montenegro. Morrison, who smashed his first ever 6-second run, skipped the 6.9s completely, went 6.87 at well over 200 miles an hour. Taking on Kostas Giannopoulos, T-bike with Jake Michel. Kostas went 6.94 again, way over 200 miles an hour. I think that could have been his first ever 6-second run. Funny thing was, this time last year he wasn't even on 850, was he?
No, he had to do 2 850 bike class events before he could be eligible to run Super Street.
Instant spin for Alan Morrison.
I've say loaded it for everything we had, and yeah, the track just couldn't hold it. Well, we know the track is fast, but will Jake Michel have a response to that 6.64 from Daniel?
If anyone can, Jake can.
Well, we know Jake has had the number of the devil a couple of times. He's about 6.66, but he could do. We want those plus a little bit more now to see if you can get that number 1 spot back.
Yeah, he needs to be the neighbour of the beast, not the number of the beast. That was terrible, but anyway, here we go.
677 at 223. He didn't have a reply.
Well, that is one of the fastest speeds Jake's ever run. Bike used to front half really quickly, but not back half. It looks like Jake's worked the back half out as well. So this is crunch time for who's going to be racing tomorrow. Margot Smith all the way from the Netherlands, or will it be Chris Reed from the UK? However, I think Margot's got problems again, unfortunately. A very trying weekend for all of them.
So we can't see. Oh, there we go.
They'll give her a certain amount of time, but not forever. There's a big shiny light in her face. See that, especially in the dark. So Margot has a 6-second bike. but she needs that 6-second bike to show up now. Otherwise she will not be in the eliminations. The number on the board, 7.63. That's the bump spot, the last spot in the qualified elimination ladder. If she runs quicker, she'll race tomorrow. If she doesn't, very straightforward, she won't. Stacey, Chris's daughter, down on the start line holding her breath to find out whether her dad will be running tomorrow or not. Good luck, Margot. Stage, just one of those. 784. Chris Reed will race on race day.
Well, Margot's still with the alternate, and it's sportsman qualifying to wrap our day up here. We've still got quite a few classes to go. This is Top Speed Automotive Street Eliminator, and the reason they've been shuffled forward is they still need to go out on their cruise this evening. So they are the next class to run. They'll head back to the pits and then get themselves ready to go out on the cruise.
Yeah, they don't change much, by the way. They keep the same tyres, they keep everything. They might change the tune in the car. But that's about it. So, Michael D'Souza going in number 8. Nigel Hale in at 9.
Their season will start a little bit later this year. They've got the house move and an Australian trip coming up, which is everybody a good and safe meeting, and they will be back uglier than ever. But he'll still be keeping track of what everybody else is doing in Street Eliminator.
Another 14. So, subject to clarification by people that know way more than we do.
Yeah, I think he needs to go, I think it's 14.50 or 13.99, but I don't think that's quick enough. But that's some fun though. Right, so look there, Graham Smith and James Murray. James blew the tyres off on his previous run, but then he is running in the mid-9s now with the Cortina estate. Graham Smith though, 8.56. The car has been 8.0s, love to get it into the 7s. Got the coolest merch as well actually, new t-shirts launched this weekend. James Murray stays at number 6.
Well, everybody's stepping up in this final session. Can these two do the same? Joe Baxter taking on, only qualifying of course, the reigning champ in Street Eliminator. That's Tony Higgs with sponsorship from Hill Seat Tyres. And his kitchen, or not Jen's kitchen that she didn't get as well, obviously.
I suppose he hasn't had sponsor logos made up for Jen's kitchen.
So they should be called. going, thinking, why don't they join this class?
And finally, he's got to use the parachutes.
Both of them.
Yeah, got both of them out that time. Well done, Tony.
Well, it just goes to prove it's always in there.
Yeah.
It's a case of tuning it to make sure it happens. Okay, this is the last pair of cars. No Mark Sheridan in this session, unfortunately. We've got Super Gas coming up. Right behind them, I can see Super Con. We've got ET Bike. Still lots to do. So, last pair. Kai McSweeney, who also is in the 14s. Here's Rob Carter, who was number 1 at the start of this.
Nice roll through the beams.
Sadly does not. So again, we do need to double check whether they will be around for Olympus tomorrow. They've also got to go on the cruise qualifier too. So Jasmine Tunstall and John Scott. Okay, Jess Tunstall and Don Scott, 12 and 13 at the moment.
Stays 13. Everybody else is the right side of 990.
So Vic Parsons and Mark White. I had the pleasure of having a morning jog with Mr. Dan Page down there, who's helping Mark. And he said, yeah, the car has moved. It normally moves around a little bit, but nothing like as lively as it has been the last 2 days. They hope they've cured it. We're about to find out. Mark White is going to be test pilot. Vic Parsons is number 2 with a 92, 10.49. He is the best number so far on the Mark White. That was almost boring on the start line with Mark White that time. However, boring race cars are consistent ones.
Yeah, Vic way too quick there, 975. Despite lifting off the throttle. Not by much though.
Stu Doyle and Andy Dibley, the main organiser and protagonist of the pod runners who get one out there at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Thank you, Andy. We did work out as well that this Supergas car is older than no slouch in the other lane though.
Yeah.
154. But your new number 1 qualifier, Andy Dibley, congratulations in Tony Morris Carburetors Supergas. He did actually mention that everyone had not the greatest qualifying session yesterday. Nailed it. Well,
They did, yeah.
You bet. Stu Morris, Wayne Hiscock, your next pair.
Good afternoon, or let's say good evening to Tim and Tina Moore. I know they're checking out proceedings. Trouble is, they both went in the 9.8s, where they wanted to go to the 9.9s. It was a double breakout, so no help for those two. Right, the previous number 1 qualifier slipped back to number 2 due to that great run from Andy Dibley in Bob Alden. White noise at 205 has already been 9.903. Dave Jarrett coming number 8 on a 10 flat.
Okay, Sarah Unsworth is currently number 7, she went 9.99. Dave Vaughan is bested at 10.0, that little Brady Roadster. I think he got all the way to the fight. What did he get to the fight in at the last event? Was it Supergas or Pro T?
Supergas.
Best break out of the day, well done.
Yeah, 9.49 over 36. Dave, 10.06 at 1.48.
Right, we've got Combike rolling around underneath the tower, but not before that. We have one final car in Supergas. So Combike final qualifying session. Super Comp qualifying session. What else have we got left to go?
Funny bike, 850, 950, ET bike and Sportsman ET.
Yes, because we run junior.
Yes,
already.
yeah,
Junior track bike, I should say. All the juniors were done earlier. Session, we have 13 bikes qualified. I'm sure they're all run because we're on a 16 ladder. That's not up to me.
Right, first up, Michael Bingham, currently the number 3 slot, 740, representing Warp Speed Racing in the Castro Lane, and it's Aswin Lenoble, the Suzuki Pro Stock bike. On a line 24 coming into this session.
In the slip trick lane, great to see Dan back enjoying himself at the drags. Run a lot of classes over the years, Dan. Had one of the world's most mental Ford Pops, which I'm sure you all remember. Just really funny. I said to Dan, what happened to that car? He said, somebody bought it and put it on the street, of all things. Exactly, that's what I mean. 7 second hand, anyway, whatever. You know how it works. So, Graham Darts in the other lane as well. Both these car bikes previously in the Super Street bike. That moves him up to number 3 now, so they're both making moves, but it was the extension of that number 1 spot for Danny Cockrell that was really the number that everybody took. You can hear us down there, the old fella's still got it, doesn't he? Deary me. I think that's the quickest Dan's ever been on a bike, actually, that might be. So Paul Hambridge and Keith Wright. Paul Hambridge little off his normal pace this weekend. He's number 8 qualifier with a 7.17. who is now down to number 6, went 7.61 yesterday. This is actually the first run for most of the comp bikes today. Patrick Braunsley on the other side is number 10. He's run a 7 as well, but 7.89. Comp bike is super competitive and fun, isn't it?
Yeah, top 9 in the top 10 are in the 7s.
I was in the 6. Well, problems in both lanes and lots of spin and shake from Brother Brett out front, directing traffic. That is Jasmine Cordell. With the nitrous assisted engine in that machine. Quickly she's been so far in qualifying. She's currently down to 7.40. On the other side of the track, Pete Slater with the big CC machine.
Right, got to wish Avril Cordell, Comp Bike Mum, Junior Drag Bike, and a belated birthday for Friday. Just gone from a very dysfunctional family. She knows what that means. Also, she's crewing for Alan in ET Bike. Hopefully Jazz can get the bike in one piece so we don't get it back at the Davis Hospital. But if not, we'll have lots of fun when Jazz and Phil, as Dad, comes the weekend. And that's it from Claire Davis.
Daniel Madeira and Chris Neary. Dan is number 5 with a 7.55. Chris Neary though down in 13 with 11 second run. So it's slowly so I can manage it. So the newest member of the 6 Second Club in Funny Bike, we're delighted to say, is Dave Peters with the Rigaboot Express.
Oh, that was just one of the highlights of the weekend. His first ever 6.
Well, the thing is, I think the closest he's got before was like a 7.2.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but probably, yeah. But I don't think he's got anywhere close before. And just to run that number up against Storm Branch. Unfortunately, with an 8.78. They're both qualified, they both will race tomorrow.
So it's a funny bike.
A couple more on the tower.
A couple more to come, yeah.
Martin Zylstra and Eric Richard. Could we have another 6-second bike? Because Martin, again, this was testing back on Thursday, I think, but he ran a 7.0. So the last pair of funny bikes in qualifying from France and the Netherlands. Eric Richard, I'll let you guess where he's from, and Martin Zylstra. Again, let me guess which one's from which country. He's just big lazy, really. So Eric, current number 1 qualifier went 6.53. He can go quicker than that. Martin to close out qualifying. 214 miles an hour for Eric, 191 for Martin. Nigh on personal best territory. Okay, we move on to Supercomp 8.90 on 4 wheels. You'll see the number on the board at the top. We've still got only got a few classes left to go here today to round out qualifying. 7:20 in the evening.
Yeah, we've only got 2 car classes actually, Super Comp and Sports PT.
Okay.
And the others are bikes, which are 850, 950 and ET.
So officially 5 more classes to run through.
Yeah.
So Warren Watts. I wonder what Paul Hudson thinks about like watching his engine go in state. Smooth for Nathan, 944 at 147, 902 for Warren, actually moved him up to number 3, would you believe?
We have a conversation about obviously there's a lot of people that know. Herb's been in touch, Herb Andrews. Hope you're doing well, Herb, actually. I know we had a bit of a trouble at Swing Speed, but hope you're well. He recalls that the 1987 World Finals, Harlan Thompson raced Tom Hoover in the semi-finals of Funny Car.
We were right
there, I think. John Crawford is checking out. 1993 at the Cannonball, we had 3 Americans here, which was Harlan, Tom Hoover, and Corey Lee.
That's right,
but
I don't think Corey made it
don't know if
down
they
the
actually
track.
raced, anybody raced each other then, so that's what they're checking.
Corey didn't have a great weekend as I seem to remember anyway from back then. My God, that's 32 years ago.
I know, incredible.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, Leah Keller, Ronnie Mercer, looking for 8.90. Leah is definitely there because she ran that number or thereabouts earlier on in Super Pro. Ronnie, though, nowhere near so far this weekend because the nitrous hasn't, well, that's our guess. He's purged the nitrous, but the car hasn't run with it. Make sense of that if you can. but still not quite there with